Tonight, as the candlelight flickers, we travel back in time, not to witness the glory of Sparta from afar, but to live it, to feel the grit of the dirt beneath your feet, the sting of discipline on your back, and the weight of Spartan expectations pressing down on your shoulders. I'm the candlelight historian, and this is history as it was lived, unforgiving, unfiltered, and brutally real. Before we begin, tell me something. Where are you listening from, and what time is it where you are? Comment below and let me know. I love seeing where our community is watching from and how many of you are tuning in at night. Just like now, to let your mind wander through the pages of history. Now close your eyes, or keep them open and let your imagination drift, because you're about to walk through a world few would dare to survive. A world without comfort, without softness, without mercy. You were born in Sparta. That much is certain, but even that doesn't guarantee your survival. From the moment you took your first breath, your fate was uncertain. Spartan society didn't just expect strength, it demanded it. Newborns were examined for any sign of weakness or deformity. If anything was deemed unworthy, the child was left to die. No second chances, no exceptions. But you made it. So you must have looked healthy enough, strong enough. You passed the first test. But that was only the beginning. Your childhood, unlike what many today would recognize, wasn't filled with toys, cartoons, or cuddles. There was no warm porridge made by your mother, no bedtime stories. Instead, your parents loved you through toughness. They didn't pamper you, they prepared you. From as early as age 7, Spartan boys were taken from their families and thrown into a communal system called the agoge. The agoge wasn't school. It was a brutal training regime that blended education, military preparation, and physical conditioning into one relentless stream of hardship. Think of it as a military academy designed by people who thought empathy was a weakness. You were taught how to fight, how to endure pain, how to steal without getting caught, and most importantly, how to obey. You see, Spartan values were unlike those of other Greek city-states. While Athens celebrated philosophy, the arts, and debate, Sparta trained warriors. Quiet, precise, lethal warriors. Your worth wasn't measured by your ideas or your voice. It was measured by how long you could stand in formation without flinching, by how many blows you could take without crying out. And even before you entered the agoge, you would already be molded. Right now, you're still a child, maybe 5 or 6. But that doesn't mean life is easy. You don't sleep in comfort. You don't eat 3 meals a day. You don't get hugs when you're upset. Instead, you're taught to eat little, to speak less, and to feel even less. You watch your older brothers train outside. You hear the sounds of wooden swords clashing, grunts of exertion, and the sharp crack of discipline being dealt. You know that soon, very soon, that will be you. And there's no escape. Your clothing is simple. A thin tunic in summer, a thicker one in winter, but always minimal. You go barefoot, not because your family is poor, but because softness makes you weak. That's the belief here. Spartan mothers don't shelter their children. They raise warriors. Even the women here are strong, known across Greece for their boldness and physical fitness. They don't cower in the shadows. They run households, own land, and raise sons to be soldiers. The values of Sparta are etched into your bones from the start. Endurance, discipline, obedience, courage. These aren't just ideals, they are survival traits. If you lack them, you won't last. Not in training, not in battle, not even in your own home. And now, As the sun begins to rise and the chill in the air fades slightly, your first real test begins. You'll be rising with the others. You'll face your first full day in Sparta, a day that doesn't promise mercy, rest, or comfort, only expectation. Get ready, because in Sparta, every morning is war. The cold bites your skin as you throw off the rough wool blanket. There's no time to stretch, no time to yawn. The others are already rising, quietly and without complaint. You follow suit, trying to mask the chill in your bones and the stiffness in your limbs. The stone beneath your feet is unforgiving, but you're not allowed to flinch. Not here. The dormitory is sparse, a shared space with no privacy, no comfort. Dozens of boys rise together, all trained to move in unison, to obey without question. You are one of them now. The air is filled with a dry silence, only broken by the occasional command barked by an older boy or the sound of straw being brushed from tunics. The agoge doesn't wait for you to adjust. Your training starts before the sun is fully up. There's no breakfast. Hunger is expected. In fact, it's cultivated. You're not supposed to feel full, not physically, not emotionally. The idea is to always want more strength, more control, more resilience. You and the others line up in the training yard, still shivering from the morning air. There's no fire to warm your fingers, no warm tea, no slippers. A trainer, older, scarred, and as cold as the morning wind, begins barking commands. You start with drills, running in formation, dropping to the ground, standing again, always in sync. Discipline isn't a suggestion here. It's the law. Your body aches from yesterday's bruises, but there's no room for that. Pain is just a distraction, and if you limp or wince, you'll be singled out. Not to be comforted, but to be punished. Every movement is being watched, not just by the trainers, but by your peers. Weakness is a contagious disease, and nobody wants to catch it. The first round of sparring begins. You're paired with someone slightly older, by design. He's stronger, quicker, more experienced. That's how it works. You fight, and you lose. Again and again. You get knocked down, hit in the stomach, thrown to the dirt. No one steps in. This is the lesson. The only way to learn is through hardship. When the sparring ends, your nose is bleeding and your ribs ache, but you stay silent. That's what's expected. Spartans don't complain. Spartans endure. Then comes the inspection. An older boy walks past, eyes scanning every face, every bruise, every tear held back. He stops in front of you. Stand straighter, he mutters. Not unkindly, but not kindly either. Just fact. You obey instantly. After training, you're sent to a lesson. But it's not what you'd expect. There are no books, no ink, no parchment. The lessons are oral, built around memory and discipline. You're quizzed on Sparta's laws, its heroes, its victories. You must recite them with precision. Errors mean punishment. Forgetting is unacceptable. And, above all, you're trained to speak less, not more. Brevity is a virtue. Eloquence is a sign of weakness. Then there's the test of stealth. At some point during the day, you never know when you'll be expected to steal something. Maybe food, maybe a tool, maybe information. But here's the twist. If you're caught, you're punished. Not for stealing, but for failing. In Sparta, cunning is praised. Sloppiness is not. The hours pass, and your body grows weary. Your stomach growls, but there's no meal waiting for you. You get a small portion of black broth, a mixture of pig's blood, salt, and vinegar. It tastes awful, it's supposed to. You're not here to enjoy food. You're here to survive. At one point, you see a boy being beaten. He's not crying. He's not even resisting. This is a punishment, maybe for speaking out of turn, maybe for hesitating in combat. Nobody intervenes. Everyone watches, silently. This too is part of your education. The sun begins to dip behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the barracks. Your body is exhausted, your mind numb. But the day isn't over yet. There's an evening drill, a final test of obedience before the night falls. And then, finally, you're back in the cold room. The straw doesn't feel softer, but you're too tired to notice. You lie still, the wool blanket barely keeping out the chill. Around you, the others breathe slowly, evenly, asleep within minutes. Your muscles throb, your skin is bruised, your stomach is empty, and tomorrow it all starts again. You lie awake longer than the others. The straw pokes your back, and the stone beneath offers no comfort. The scent of sweat, blood, and smoke clings to your tunic. Outside, a wolf howls faintly in the distance, a sound that once might have frightened you. Now it's familiar, almost comforting, because here, in Sparta, even the wild knows its place. You don't dream often anymore. Dreams are soft, useless. If they come, they're quick flashes of your mother's face, or warm bread, or something even softer you can't quite remember. But they vanish quickly. You've learned to push them away, because memory, too, can be a weakness. The days here blend together. But make no mistake, they are not the same. Each one is a test, a trap, a lesson disguised as routine. You never know what's coming next. That's part of the game. Keep you ready, keep you sharp. One day, it might be a test of endurance. A march over brutal terrain with nothing but a small piece of bread and the clothes on your back. Another, it could be silence. Total, unwavering silence for hours. A whisper means punishment. A cough means shame. You learn to control not just your body, but your instincts. The worst days are the ones with no clear test at all. The ones where everything seems normal. Training, eating, studying, sparring. But beneath the surface, something's off. An instructor's eyes linger too long. The older boys whisper more than usual. You start to wonder, is this another trial? Are they watching me right now? They are. They always are. Your days are filled with hidden battles, not just with others, but within, fighting the ache in your body, the hunger, the fear, the part of you that still longs for comfort or kindness. That part has to die here, because Spartans don't carry softness. Spartans carry spears. By now, you know that strength isn't just in your arms or your legs. It's in how still you can keep your face, how well you can ignore pain, how quickly you can obey. The agoge trains you to be dangerous, but silent, ruthless, but controlled. One evening, just after the sun has dipped below the hills, you're summoned. No explanation, no warning, just a sharp command and a nod. You follow. You're taken out beyond the barracks, past the training fields, and down toward the edge of the forest. A fire flickers in a small clearing. Around it are 5 older boys, each one scarred, lean, and watchful. This is not a punishment. It's not a promotion either. It's something in between. A test of loyalty, of secrecy. They tell you nothing, not what's about to happen, not what they expect. Just a simple order, sit. So you do. One of them throws a dagger into the dirt in front of you. It sticks, trembling slightly. They look at you and say, "Defend it, that's all." You don't ask questions, you don't speak, you simply stand. The next few seconds are a blur. They charge, one by one, not to injure, but to test. You dodge, strike, stumble. The dirt stains your knees, blood stings your lip, but you don't let go of the dagger. You defend it. When it's over, no one congratulates you. No one explains. They simply nod. One of them gestures back toward camp. You walk alone, tired, confused, but still holding the blade. That was your lesson. Hold the line, even if you don't know why. The Agoge never announces what it's teaching. It just happens, and you either learn or you're forgotten. Another week, you're made to live off the land, alone, no food, no help, just the trees, the cold, and your own instincts. You're expected to steal to survive. Kill small game. Hide, lie. Not for fun, but because one day you may be behind enemy lines, and the Spartans don't rescue their own. You live or you die. You come back thinner, bruised, and silent, but alive, and that's enough. Sometimes the instructors talk of glory, of battle, of dying with honor, but they speak of it without warmth, without romance. Death in Sparta is not a tragedy, it's an expectation, a transaction. You give your life in service of the city, and in return, your name is remembered. That's the deal. You start to understand this more when you're taken to the training caves. Low, damp spaces filled with the stories of Spartan heroes carved into the rock. Names etched in soot, simple, sparse. Each one a reminder of what's expected of you. These weren't kings, these were boys. Boys who fought, boys who fell, boys who never cried out. One evening, you see your friend punished, not for failing, but for succeeding too well. He beat another boy to Italy in combat, but boasted about it afterward. That was the mistake. Pride is not Spartan. Humility is law. For his words, he's whipped, not as a deterrent, but as a reminder. Skill without restraint is as dangerous as weakness. You remember that. Then there's the festival. Sparta doesn't celebrate much, but when it does, it's a strange mix of pageantry and pain. The festival of Artemis Orthia, a test of endurance, masked as a religious rite. Boys whipped before a crowd. Not to punish, but to prove. Some collapse, some pass out. The ones who don't, they become legends. You're not selected this time, but you watch, you learn. One day, it may be you. Still, not everything in Sparta is violence. There are moments, brief ones, where camaraderie breaks through the stoicism. A glance exchanged in training, a shared joke said too quietly, a hand offered to help you up. These moments are rare, but they remind you you're not alone, because while Sparta crushes weakness, it also breeds unity. You're not training for yourself. You're training to stand with others, to form a wall, shoulder to shoulder, shield to shield. Alone, you're nothing. Together, you are Sparta. You begin to understand the weight of that. Slowly, day by day, cut by cut. Eventually, your name is called for a new task. Guard, duty, boring, quiet, important. You stand at the perimeter of the camp, holding a spear almost as tall as you. You watch the hills. You listen. Every rustle, every breeze could be something more. You learn patience. You learn stillness. You learn to exist without needing to act. Hours pass. Then more. Then one night, a shadow moves. You don't flinch. You don't call out. You grip your spear tighter and wait. It's only an animal, a fox, darting between the trees. But you didn't move. You didn't panic. Another lesson passed. When you finally return to your straw bedding, the others are asleep. You lie down in silence, bones aching but mind steady. You stare up at the stone ceiling. You're not strong yet, but you're no longer weak. And that's the beginning of something dangerous. The days stretch on, each one harder, colder, and quieter than the last. But something inside you begins to shift. It is not sudden. There is no dramatic moment where you feel yourself change. Instead, it happens slowly, almost invisibly. Bit by bit, your thoughts sharpen, your body hardens. Pain fades into the background. Orders no longer feel like instructions. They feel like instinct. And fear, the old kind that once gripped your chest, becomes irrelevant. You are no longer surviving the day. You are beginning to master it. Now, you wake before the command is given. Your eyes open before the others stir. Your hands move to adjust your tunic before your thoughts are fully awake. The chill of the morning does not make you shiver anymore. The stone under your feet is still cold, but it no longer feels cruel. It feels expected. Hunger is always with you, but you welcome it. Hunger sharpens you. Hunger keeps you alert. You no longer crave the feeling of being full. That is a luxury for softer cities. In Sparta, being hungry means you are still fighting. The drills become harder, longer, more precise. You are expected to push beyond exhaustion, to run farther, to strike faster, to fall and rise again without a word. Your bruises deepen, but your tolerance grows. You stop looking at your wounds. They do not matter anymore. When the new boys arrive, you see it in their faces. Their confusion, their fear, their softness. They walk into the barracks wide-eyed, not yet understanding what is coming. You remember being them, but you do not feel pity. Pity is dangerous here. What you feel is something different, something heavier. You feel responsibility. One boy stumbles during the morning march. He is clumsy and slow, his feet not yet trained for the pace. He breaks formation. The instructor says nothing. He simply raises his hand, and all of you are ordered to run again. 10 laps around the yard, barefoot, in silence. You do not blame the boy. You do not speak to him. That is not your role. Later, he approaches you. His voice is quiet. He asks how to tie his tunic so it does not loosen during drills. You show him without speaking. His fingers tremble as he follows your movements. Yours do not. This is how lessons are passed down, not through advice or sympathy, but through example, through discipline, through repetition. Your body no longer complains. Your thoughts are sharper. You know the drills before they begin. You can feel when the instructor is about to test you. You learn to anticipate, to prepare without needing direction. Soon you are sent to the wilderness again. But this time it is not just to survive. It is to hunt. You are given a short blade and nothing else. No food, no cloak. You were told to return in 2 days with something caught. A bird, a hare, even a lizard will do. But you must find it, kill it, and carry it back. The forest is cold, but quieter than camp. The silence is different here. Not the silence of obedience, but the silence of nature. You walk slowly, watchfully. Every snapped twig becomes a warning. Every shadow might be something more. You follow tracks in the dirt. You crouch near streams and listen for movement. Sometimes you wait for hours without a sound. You do not grow restless. You do not speak. The agoge has taught you how to be still. One night, you catch nothing. You lie under a tree, your blade in your hand, your stomach empty. The wind moves through the branches above you. The stars are cold and distant. You sleep lightly, your ears tuned to the sounds of the dark. By morning, you are moving again. You spot a rabbit. It hears you before you are close. It runs, but this time you are faster. You cut its path. You strike. You do not cheer. You simply pick it up, tie it to your belt, and head back toward camp. When you return, no one praises you. No one claps. The instructor glances at the rabbit, nods once, and turns away. That is how success is acknowledged here. Not with applause, but with less punishment. And that's not just true in training. It's the rhythm of all Spartan life. This isn't a city obsessed with praise. It's a society built on quiet duty, unshakable order, and shared sacrifice. The agoge is just one part of it. To understand Sparta, really understand it, you need to step outside the boys' barracks. You need to walk through the agora, visit the training grounds of adult warriors, and hear the voices of Spartan women, strong, sharp, and utterly unlike the wives of other Greek cities. Let's start with the women. In Athens, women are kept indoors, expected to tend to weaving, bear children, and remain largely silent in public life. But not here. Spartan women are visible, respected, feared. They are educated, physically fit, and famously outspoken. They don't lower their gaze. They don't hide their strength. In fact, they train, run, and wrestle. They sing hymns to the gods and speak their minds at gatherings. Their role is not decorative. It is foundational. A Spartan mother's words can shape the course of a soldier's life. Before battle, a mother might hand her son his shield and say, "Return with it or on it." In other words, come back victorious or don't come back. At all, marriage here isn't sentimental. Young men and women are paired based on strength and suitability. On wedding night, the bride might shave her head and wear a man's tunic to symbolize equality and transition into a new role. The groom must sneak into the house to be with her, as young warriors aren't allowed to live with their wives until they've completed full military service. The goal of marriage isn't comfort, it's continuation, to produce strong sons and daughters who will serve the city. And the respect Spartan women command is real. They can own land, manage estates, and give orders to slaves and servants. It's said they speak with more authority than many men in Athens. And in Sparta, no one finds that odd. Move beyond the homes and training fields, and you'll find the heart of Spartan political life, the dual kingship and the Gerousia, the council of elders. Sparta is not a democracy. It's a strange and fascinating mix of monarchy, oligarchy, and limited popular input. Two kings rule at once, both from separate royal families. They command armies, perform religious duties, and act as symbols of balance. If one dies, the other continues, ensuring stability. But they don't rule alone. The real power lies with the Gerousia, a council made up of 28 elders over the age of 60, plus the two kings. These men are seasoned, experienced, and elected for life. They propose laws and guide decisions. Below them is the assembly of citizens, Spartan males over 30, who can vote but not debate. And above them all, in terms of fear and influence, are the ephors. 5 ephors are elected each year. They oversee almost every aspect of Spartan life: education, discipline, even the kings. They can bring rulers to trial, they run the agoge, and they decide when Sparta goes to war. They serve only once, for 1 year. But during that year, their authority is near absolute. The structure is rigid, but efficient. Everything has a place. Everyone has a role. Even religion here feels different. The Spartans worship the same gods as other Greeks: Apollo, Artemis, Athena, but their devotion is expressed through sacrifice, ritual, and war games rather than temples and statues. Festivals like the Carnia or Gymnopedia are less about joyous celebration and more about reinforcing discipline, strength, and unity. Even the sacred becomes part of the machinery of the state. And then there are the helots, the enslaved population. They are the dark underside of this military utopia. Helots are native to the land, conquered Messenians and others who now work the fields, tend the crops, and perform the manual labor that sustains Spartan life. There are far more helots than Spartans. Estimates suggest 7 to 1, and that imbalance creates a constant tension. To keep them in fear, Spartans ritually declare war on the helots every year, allowing any citizen to kill one without punishment. Young warriors in training are sometimes tasked with assassinating helots as part of their development. It's a brutal system, and yet it holds the city together. This is the reality of Sparta: honor on one side, cruelty on the other. A society where glory is built on control and survival means power over others. But to judge Sparta by modern standards is to misunderstand it. They didn't aim to be kind. They aimed to be eternal, stronger than storms, sharper than blades, harder than stone. Even the architecture reflects this mindset. There are no grand temples like in Athens, no towering statues of marble gods, no delicate columns or extravagant theaters. Sparta is built to last, not to impress. Homes are functional, roads are direct. The city does not flaunt beauty, it radiates strength. Trade is limited. Gold and silver are banned. Iron bars are used as currency, heavy and inconvenient by design, to discourage greed. Foreigners are rarely welcome. Travel is discouraged. The outside world is considered a source of weakness and corruption. And so Sparta remains closed, proud, disciplined, and self-sufficient. Its people do not seek conquest for wealth. They fight to protect their way of life, to preserve the system, to defend the legacy. To live here is to surrender yourself, not just your comfort or your possessions, but your individuality. You do not stand out in Sparta. You fall in line. You do not ask questions. You obey. You do not speak unnecessarily. You listen. You do not aim for personal glory. You aim to serve. Because here, in this city, carved from discipline and silence, the greatest honor is not to be remembered as a name, but to be remembered as a Spartan. But today, something changes. There is a name, and it is yours, called from the mouth of a commander, in a tone that does not rise or fall. Just a flat announcement: you've been selected. Not for punishment, not for trial, for war. You feel it in your stomach first. And not fear exactly, but something near it. You do not flinch. You do not question. You nod once and begin to prepare. Because war in Sparta is not a possibility, it is a purpose. Everything has led to this. The hunger, the silence, the bruises, the drills in the rain, the long days of marching without food, the empty nights on stone floors. All of it was for this. There is no celebration, no feast, just a cold meal, a sharpened blade, and a moment with your brothers, not of joy, but of stillness. When a Spartan is sent to war, he is not sent to fight alone, he is sent to hold the line. You are one link in the chain, one shield in the wall. If you break, the wall breaks, and that is why you cannot afford to be weak, not even in thought. You gather your things, a cloak dyed red to hide the blood, a short sword, a heavy round shield, as important as your heart, and your spear, tall, ashwood, perfectly balanced. It is not just a weapon, it is your spine. You sleep on the ground that night, with the others side by side. You do not talk, you do not dream, you only breathe. And in the morning, you march. The ground trembles under the rhythm of Spartan feet. Not chaotic, not rushed, but exact. Each step like a drumbeat, each soldier a moving piece of a single, deadly machine. You are not the biggest in the formation, not the fastest, but none of that matters now. All that matters is formation, position, timing, obedience. You have trained for this moment your entire life, and yet nothing could prepare you for the smell of death in the wind before a battle. The thick silence that sits on the chest like a weight before the first clash, the way the sun feels hotter, the air thinner, time slower. Across from you, the enemy waits. They look human, they look afraid, and in your heart there is something stirring, not hatred, not rage, but duty. A command is given, one word, you move. The phalanx is the most perfect expression of Spartan unity, each shield overlapping with the next, each spear aimed forward, each heartbeat synced. You are shoulder to shoulder with your brothers, not speaking, but breathing as one. Your shield is not for you, it is for the man beside you. Your life is not your own, it is Sparta's. When the clash comes, it is not beautiful, it is not glorious, it is chaos, screams, shields, shattering, metal on flesh, mud and blood, and the crunch of bone under sandals. You stab, you block, you brace, you push forward, always forward. Your arms are shaking, your shoulder is numb, your eyes sting with sweat. But you do not stop, you do not step back, because in Sparta, stepping back is not an option. Your mother told you as much when she gave you your shield. Come back with it, or on it. Hours pass, or maybe it is only minutes. Time bends when death is near, and then, as quickly as it began, it ends. The enemy retreats or dies. You do not cheer, you do not raise your hands, you simply regroup and count the missing. There is no victory feast, no long speeches, only the sound of scavenger birds in the sky and the stink of blood on your skin. You bury the dead, Spartan and enemy alike. Quietly, efficiently, the same way you fought, you return to camp, not as a hero, but as a Spartan, which, here, is far more sacred. But here's the truth. You were never told in training. The war doesn't end when the fighting stops, because now you carry something heavier than your shield. You carry silence. You do not talk about the boy who fell beside you. You do not ask why he was chosen and you survived. You simply press it down, deeper, until even you forget. That's the Spartan way. The morning begins again before the sun has fully lifted. The barracks are cold, the routine automatic. There is no moment for reflection, no time to dream. But for a few hours each week, and only with permission, Spartans are allowed to walk among the agoras, the marketplaces, though even here, this city refuses to be like others. The Spartan marketplace is not what you might expect if you imagine the bustling, vibrant markets of Athens or Corinth. There are no entertainers performing for coins, no merchants shouting over each other to sell rare spices or foreign silk. The agora in Sparta is a quiet place, controlled, functional, stripped of excess like everything else in this city. There are stalls, yes, but they offer only what is necessary. Bread, olives, simple cloaks, iron tools. There are no fine perfumes here, no glinting jewelry, nothing that could distract the citizen from his duty or give rise to pride. Spartan law, shaped by the legendary Lycurgus, made certain of that. Trade and luxury was forbidden. The pursuit of wealth, frowned upon. It wasn't just a cultural belief. It was codified. Instead of gold or silver, Spartans used iron bars as currency. Thick, heavy rods, deliberately made to be difficult to carry and harder to accumulate. You couldn't slip them into a pouch. You couldn't hoard them under your bed. Their very design discouraged greed and made theft impractical, and to outsiders, they were worthless. This wasn't just an economic choice, it was moral. Here in the agora, there are no fancy signs or loud negotiations. Transactions are conducted with efficiency, often in silence. The buyers are citizens or their assigned helots, the enslaved class who do most of the labor and farming. The citizens carry themselves differently. They speak less. They do not linger. No one barters for a better price. You take what you need and you leave. Nearby, a group of women stand near a cart of woven fabric. They speak softly, but with confidence. In Sparta, women have power, not just in the home, but in property and commerce. They may own land. They manage estates while the men are away, and their presence in the agora is not questioned. It is expected. You glance at a boy standing by his mother's side. He wears the same plain tunic as everyone else. No shoes, no ornament. His eyes are sharp, watching everything, absorbing. Soon, he will be taken from her and placed into Theagoge, but not today. Today, he is just a shadow of the man Sparta will carve him into. Across the market square, a foreign trader tries to attract attention. He's brought something unusual, Corinthian oil in clay pots. You see his hands move animatedly, trying to draw in a few curious glances. But most pass him by without a word. Spartans are not easily impressed by foreign goods, and they rarely trade with outsiders. Their society is designed to be self-reliant, suspicious of the outside world. To many here, Athens is decadent, Corinth corrupt. Sparta remains pure because it does not open its gates easily. That trader will likely pack up his wares and leave, disappointed. But he will have learned a valuable lesson. Sparta is not a place to peddle indulgence. Yet even this stark, minimal economy has its own rhythms. Behind the main market area, older citizens gather to exchange stories or hear news brought in from other regions. There are no newspapers here, of course, no official broadcasts. Word of mouth is the medium, and trust in the speaker is the only guarantee of truth. Somewhere nearby, a blacksmith hammers a dull blade into shape. The sound rings out through the still air, rhythmic and familiar. Weapons are not decorative. In Sparta, they are tools, expected to be used. No intricate etchings, no unnecessary beauty. Even a sword must earn its keep. You see a group of helots unloading a cart of grain. Their clothes are coarse, their eyes cast downward. They are not citizens. They have no rights. They live under constant surveillance and fear, knowing they can be punished or even killed for perceived insolence. Yet they are the backbone of the Spartan economy, growing the food, tending the flocks, crafting the goods that citizens rely on. And it is that paradox that sustains this society, a warrior class that trains for war, and an enslaved class that works to feed it. It is a fragile balance, held together by tradition, brutality, and centuries of fear. As you walk through the market, you pass a group of young men sparring with wooden sticks in a nearby training area. Even here, just a stone's throw from the food stalls, the sounds of discipline echo. There is no space untouched by duty. A woman near you drops a small loaf of barley bread into a basket and moves on without pause. There is no idle browsing here. There is no time for pleasure. And you begin to understand. Even in its economy, Sparta reflects its soul. Everything must serve a purpose. Everything must reinforce the state. Commerce is not a path to freedom or fame. It is simply another way to feed the machine. You return to your quarters later that day with no treasures in your hands. Only necessities: bread, salt, a strip of dried meat. No one asks where you've been. No one needs to. Your presence speaks for itself. As night falls again, the fires burn low. There are no taverns, no music halls, no distractions. Just the soft rustle of cloaks, the clink of armor, and the silence of a people who know that even tomorrow's meals are part of the war. You do not complain. No one does. This is Sparta, and in Sparta, even the marketplace is a battlefield, not of blades, but of restraint, of simplicity, of submission, because to survive here, you don't just need to be strong. You need to be willing to need nothing. You rise again before the sun, your body sore but functional. There's no such thing as a rest day in Sparta, but even in this warrior state, your body must be maintained, not pampered, not comforted, but kept ready. Hygiene in Sparta is not about luxury. It is about function. There are no perfumed oils rubbed onto your skin like in Athens. No elaborate bathing rituals with heated marble basins and servants. In fact, the Spartans look down on such indulgences. A clean body is one that does its job and does not draw attention to itself. It moves, it fights, it endures. You head toward one of the communal bathing areas, a simple, cold basin carved from stone. The water is frigid and unfiltered, but you don't hesitate. A quick rinse, a splash to the face, and that's it. There are no towels, no mirrors. You dry in the open air, or by moving on with your duties. Soap, you wouldn't recognize it. If it exists here, it's made from ash and animal fat, harsh, abrasive, and used sparingly. Spartans don't concern themselves with scent. Smelling nice is not a virtue. If anything, the scent of effort, of dust and sweat, is a mark of authenticity, a sign that you've worked, trained, and bled. You notice one boy next to you, cleaning a wound from a sparring match. He doesn't flinch as he pours cold water over the gash. There's no doctor nearby, no bandage with herbs and honey. He simply presses a piece of cloth to it and ties it tightly with a strip of leather. Later, he will return to training. To show pain is weakness. To delay training for a scratch is unacceptable. Hair is kept short for boys, longer for girls. Spartan women braid their hair, often in simple but sturdy styles. No makeup, no jewelry. Their beauty is measured by health, strength, and poise, not by fashion. A Spartan woman is judged not by how she looks, but by how she walks, how she commands a room, how she raises warriors. As for you, there are no scented lotions, no grooming rituals. You may rub olive oil on your limbs if it's cold or if you're training outdoors for hours, but that, too, is utilitarian. There's no barber to style your hair. You cut it yourself or have a peer do it for you. The edges are uneven, but it doesn't matter. Cleanliness is not about how you appear. It's about preventing illness. Infection is feared. There are no antibiotics, no emergency hospitals. A simple cut, left untreated, could cost a limb or your life. You were taught to clean your gear, sharpen your blade, and maintain your body the same way. Not out of vanity, but out of survival. You walk past a public latrine. No privacy, no doors. Just a row of stone holes, spaced evenly and used by all. Spartan citizens don't avert their eyes. They do not turn away in embarrassment. This is life. This is practical. Waste is collected and discarded, and that's the end of it. Water is precious. Bathing is limited. You might wash your tunic once a week, if that. Dirt is common. Smell is natural. What matters is health, stamina, clean wounds, strong limbs. And yet, despite all of this, Spartans are surprisingly fit. Their minimalist approach to hygiene is effective because their diets are lean. Their lives are active, and their bodies are hardened. They do not suffer from the same ailments of overindulgence that plagues softer cities. Obesity is non-existent. Laziness, unheard of. Everyone has a task. Even the elderly are expected to contribute, to mentor, to guide. You sometimes hear rumors from travelers, stories about the baths in Athens, how the nobles there will soak for hours in warm water and surround themselves with musicians while slaves serve wine. You cannot imagine it, not because you lack imagination, but because the idea itself feels offensive. Here in Sparta, water is to be drunk, wounds are to be rinsed, and time is never to be wasted, especially not in pursuit of softness. Even as a citizen, you are constantly reminded you are not special. You are not meant to be admired. You are meant to serve. You glance down at your hands, rough, cracked, calloused. The marks of the helot might be deeper, but yours are still enough to tell a story of repetition, of routine, of stripping away everything that isn't necessary until only function remains. You don't look in the mirror. There aren't any. You don't count scars. There are too many. You don't crave comfort. Comfort will kill you. And as the sun begins to climb higher, you know the next trial is coming. Your body is clean enough. Your wounds are bound. Your gear is in order. There's no need to look your best. You only need to survive. As the week rolls on, you begin to notice something strange. For all the discipline, all the silence, all the rigid structure of Spartan life, there are moments when the city comes alive in ways you didn't expect. One of those moments is the festival. Not a break from duty, but a different kind of ritual. One with just as much intensity. Today is the start of the Carnia. At first glance, it feels like a contradiction, a celebration in a place so obsessed with discipline and war. But this festival is not a pause from Spartan values. It is a reflection of them, and you are about to witness one of the few times this city truly loosens its grip, if only slightly. The Carnia is held in honor of Apollo Carnius, a god tied not only to music and healing, but also to order and protection. For 9 days, regular life is suspended. No military campaigns are launched. No court cases are tried. Even the most rigid schedules of training soften. But that doesn't mean it becomes a party in the way you might imagine. There are no fireworks, no colorful banners or wine-soaked speeches. The festival is serious, structured, and filled with meaning. Everything in Sparta has a function, even joy. You gather with others in the open fields near the Eurotas River. Wooden altars are prepared. Offerings are made. And then the ritual begins. The Carnia race is unlike anything you've seen before. It's not just a foot race, it's a reenactment of a military maneuver performed by runners in formation. One man, chosen to represent the god, runs ahead while others try to catch him. Not to tackle him, but to bring him back to the group. If they succeed, it is a sign that the gods are pleased, that harmony has been restored, that the coming year will be strong and prosperous. If they fail, well, it is not considered a good omen. The crowd watches in silence, their eyes locked on the runners. This is not just sport, it is sacred, and every movement has meaning. Elsewhere, rituals are performed in honor of past heroes. The memory of Sparta's ancestors is never far away. Children are told the stories again of Leonidas, of Thermopylae, of the countless warriors who gave everything in defense of this land. And just as the Carnia honors order and unity, another festival, the Hyacinthia, honors both grief and renewal. This one centers on the tragic death of a beautiful youth loved by Apollo, who died by accident, or perhaps divine jealousy. The festival is held in two parts. The first day is somber. There are no songs, no dances, just mourning, reflection, a rare and sanctioned expression of sadness in a society that often forbids it. But the following day, the tone shifts. Music fills the streets. Yes, music. You almost don't believe it. Young girls sing in choruses. Boys perform dances that echo the rhythms of battle, their movements sharp and practiced. Flutes play, drums beat in unison. And in the middle of it all, people eat. Real food. For once, the portions are generous. Meat, barley cakes, cheese, even wine, though always in moderation. Spartans are taught to eat sparingly, but festivals are a time to feast. You can feel the change in the air. It's not celebration for celebration's sake. It's a reminder, a ritualized recognition of life's other side, one that's usually buried beneath armor and commands. Even the helots are included in some parts of these festivals, not as equals, but as participants in the city's rituals. Their labor still supports the celebrations, but they, too, observe the rhythms of Spartan life. They watch, they eat, they play their roles. As night falls, the flames of the altars rise higher. The elders recite poems. Some of the verses are centuries old, memorized by heart and passed from generation to generation. There are no scripts, no scrolls, just voice, memory, and reverence. And while it may look like joy, make no mistake, everything here still serves Sparta's mission. Even the music is sharp. Even the dance is precise. Even the food is a reminder of what is earned through strength. You find yourself wondering, is this what softness feels like here? Is this brief reprieve the closest thing to leisure these people ever experience? Maybe. But even now, beneath the moonlight, when laughter breaks out and children run free for just a few hours, you still feel the eyes of the elders, watching, measuring, remembering who stood still during the hymns, who smiled too wide, who let their discipline slip, because when the sun rises again, the singing stops, the meat is gone, the fields are quiet, and the city returns to what it was, a place where even joy must serve purpose, a place where even celebration must sharpen the soul, a place where survival is never a guarantee. not even in the moments meant to celebrate life. But while the festivals offer a glimpse into Spartan unity and ritual, there is another side of this city that reveals its true steel: the justice system. In Sparta, justice is not blind. It sees everything, and it watches with discipline, not mercy. There are no long, drawn-out trials with emotional appeals or silver-tongued lawyers swaying juries. Spartan justice is swift, public, and deeply tied to honor. If you break the rules here, you are not simply punished, you are shamed. Every crime is seen as an offense, not just against a person, but against the city itself. Theft, for instance, isn't condemned because stealing is wrong. In fact, young Spartans are encouraged to steal during their training, as long as they don't get caught. The crime isn't the act, it's the failure. Getting caught is proof of incompetence, and incompetence is weakness. Punishments vary, but they all carry the same message: obey, perform, or disappear. Helots, the enslaved class, suffer the worst. They can be executed without trial if suspected of disobedience or rebellion. Every year, Sparta declares a ritual war on the Helots, allowing Spartan citizens to kill them without religious consequence. It's called the Cryptia, a secret rite where elite young men stalk and assassinate Helots under cover of darkness. Imagine that: a state-sponsored purge, a coming-of-age test where killing is not only accepted but expected. For citizens, exile is the harshest sentence. Not execution, exile. To be cast out from Sparta is to be erased. To live without the protection and identity of the city-state is worse than death. Your name becomes a stain. Your absence is not mourned. There are no second chances. Even gossip, if it spreads far enough, can destroy you. A man who shows too much pride, or questions orders, or fails to speak with proper brevity, may find himself ridiculed in public, or worse, stripped of his rights. And yet, in this iron-fisted system, there is a strange kind of order. A stability born from fear, tradition, and unshakable routine. Spartan law does not change. It is not debated. It is not challenged. It is simply followed, because disobedience means the end. Even the kings were not above the law. Yes, Sparta had kings. They could be tried, removed, or exiled if found guilty of betraying the people's trust. Power here is not absolute. It is conditional, and it is always under watch. And as you sit now, at the edge of the agora, the city's main square, watching a judgment being passed, you understand what makes Sparta different. It is not the armor, not the weapons, not even the brutal training. It is the silence, the absolute, unshakable silence of a people who have learned never to question, never to hope for leniency, never to seek personal comfort over collective strength. You think back to your first hour in this world, the straw beneath you, the cold walls, the absence of comfort. You thought that was the worst of it, but it's not. The worst part is knowing that even if you gave everything, even if you endured the pain, followed the rules, hardened your mind and body, it still wouldn't be enough. Because you don't belong here. Not really. You want meaning, warmth, a life with room to explore, to speak, to rest. But that's not what Sparta offers, and that's why. You wouldn't last a day here. Not because you're weak, not because you're soft, but because you were born in a different world. A world where empathy is valued, where questions are allowed, where individual worth is something you can shape. In Sparta, your value is set, from birth to death. You serve or you fall. This is not a history lesson, it's a warning. And as the candlelight flickers beside you once more, and the sounds of ancient Sparta fade into the night, you open your eyes and exhale. You're back. You made it, but only just. I'm the candlelight historian, and this has been another journey into the world as it was raw, real, and ruthless. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and never forget how lucky we are to live in softness. Good night.